Hello and welcome to the Pintcast. Today's guest is Taylor Hall. Welcome to the show, Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
Taylor is the branch manager of Arsenal Los Angeles. Good homie here in LA. Watch at the pub a lot over there at the Fox and Hounds. And a gooner for a good long time. You can follow Arsenal Los Angeles on Instagram at Arsenal Los Angeles. And you can check out everything as far as viewing parties and everything for watching Arsenal in LA. It's good to have you, Taylor. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Good to see you as always. Nice start to the season this weekend, albeit a little ugly, but
listen, who cares about ugly? A win at Old Trafford is a rare occurrence.
100%. Yeah, I'm here for it. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So Arsenal had the first big test of the season. Wasn't exactly the best viewing. You know, I feel like the Premier League didn't really do everyone the best service by putting a match of such marquee stature in the first week. But then I think back and think about the fact that United finished 15th last year and we finished second, so it's kind of typical to have a bottom, the team propping up the table versus a top team to start. So it's not all that crazy, is it?
No, we've started many seasons that way, and it's a fitting way to start this one. Although they did look a little bit different this year.
They did. I think they showed a lot more as far as, like, unfortunately, the lowlights and the depths that they plunged to last year, which they didn't think were achievable. Like, I think a few years ago, in the Moyes era, they didn't think it could get worse.
Yeah. And
then, we got all the way to Ten Hag. It gets even worse. And then with Amarin, the fucking losses keep piling up. This was the 15th loss. He's the first manager of a non-relegated club to reach 15 losses, right, in such a quick time.
It's a snowball of shit for them. And, last season, I think they were progressively getting worse, if that's a thing, to the point where everybody, sort of in the footballing world, were looking at each other saying, how is this humanly possible? And they just kept outdoing themselves. So to be something that does not resemble that is a huge step forward for them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, moral victories don't count for much, but, I will say, I was watching with Mark, who was the guest on the show last week, at the pub, and as far as moral victories go, I mean, they could feel encouraged about not looking like a complete dreadful piece of shit. Albeit still a team that doesn't really have it together. I was pretty happy that Sesko wasn't quite fully fit. I was pretty terrified when he came on that the narrative after Gyökeres goes off after 60 minutes without really doing anything, that he might come on and score a winner, which would be, narrative. Sky Sports would have loved that shit. It's in TalkSport.
Yeah, they had enough threat, though. I was worried sort of throughout because I think a couple of those chances that Cunha and Mbeumo put in were pretty scary. I mean, as close as it can really come,
I mean, I think those are the areas where they have really improved. Because, I mean, as far as, none of us have really seen Sesko play that much. I have watched him at Leipzig, and I've seen him look good in patches, but not a guy that really comes out and asserts himself on the match like the way, like Mbeumo and Cunha, both of them were running hard and causing trouble and really look like a huge upgrade on the other guys they had on the wings in the past few seasons.
Yeah, definitely. They looked and were playing really direct, football, and we're just very threatening in areas you don't want players to be threatening in. And the shots that they both took were, I mean, that one that hit the post, I believe it was Cunha.
I think that one was what's his name on the wing, the defender?
Oh no, you're right. It was Dorgu. Yeah,
Dorgu off from the offside.
Man, see, another person who, admittedly, I wasn't too familiar with, and some of what he put in, I was intrigued by. That shot was pretty scary. But I mean, going forward, they definitely look like they have a lot more going for them. But it's sort of that midfield area where I don't think they, I think this weekend they sort of deliberately didn't play in the midfield because they knew that was sort of their weak spot.
Yeah, it seemed like they tried to bypass it because that was our strong point, and but they didn't really have much luck against our defense. In most of those chances, you'd have to say that okay, they got this, but our center backs did a good job of basically shepherding them out a little wide and making them take shots early from outside the box. That ended up being pretty much meat and drink for Raya, in the most part.
Yeah, he played an amazing game. I believe he was the man of the match, right?
Yeah, and so that definitely tells you a bit about the way the match went. If your goalie is the man of the match, like for example, when Donnarumma was that man of the match against us in the Champions League semifinal last year, it means he was the busier keeper. And for some reason he was, even though even though their keeper had quite a blunder for our goal. He really wasn't. We didn't test him that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Raya was tremendous this weekend. I think that's something that we've needed. We always talked about it with Ramsdale in particular, but not to slight him in any way really, but we needed goalkeepers that can put in stops like that regularly, do it a few times a match if they need to, and he's done it for us time and time again, and he did it again this weekend.
Yeah, his first clean sheet on his way to another Golden Gloves
There
campaign, right? So what was interesting about that first half is that we definitely seemed like we were trying to do something a little different as far as like our verticality and trying to move forward, which is also seemed to leave us a bit more open at the back, because when we misplaced a pass while trying to break, we got countered on the break as well, and that's what seemed to lead to most of the chances.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was a very quick sort of, you hear the phrase brought up a lot, but it was a basketball-y half. There was just a lot of back and forth movement, and that's honestly something that I have a lot of faith in our defenders, but I would be lying to you today if I didn't say it really scared me when we played football like that.
I'm sure it scared Arteta. It doesn't seem like something he likes. That seems very out of character.
No, definitely. I mean, we play our games week in, week out, and 9 out of 10 times they don't go that way for a reason. It's a very deliberate reason, and for whatever reason, this weekend it sort of was out of our control a little bit. And I think part of that has to do with just, we're bedding in a lot of new players. They're sort of getting a feel for each other. I don't think Gyökeres was necessarily ready to start this match. I think we probably saw a little bit of that this weekend. If Kai, I believe he picked up a knock, a couple
weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably would have started this game, and there might have been a little bit more threat and fluidity up top. But, I think this is something that we knew was potentially going to happen, and if it's going to happen and manifest itself with a win at Old Trafford, I will fucking take that any day of the week.
Yeah, it's like you can take the growing pains if you come along with 3 points in a difficult match. So
100%. I mean, we'll look back on this match later in the season and say, damn, I will bite your hand off for that basically any day of the week. But when you live in it and it's not as glamorous as you would have hoped, I mean, you got a little bit of recency bias seeping in, but I think it's a huge win despite the performance.
Yeah, and like you said, those things have only happened. That's our 5th win at Old Trafford in the Premier League, in our
genuinely, it's a very scarce occurrence.
And all of them being 1-0 is kind of surprising. I mean, it's really shameful the fact that we haven't put a pasting on them there, considering how bad they've been over the periods of the past 10 years. But that just tells you that there is, the history of the club, the venue, there is something to the occasion and location and all that the place still has some sort of aura that makes it, an intimidating ground to go to.
Yeah, I mean, we've had much more cohesive, or let's say teams with a bit more strength and threat going to Old Trafford, coming away with a worse result time and time again, I feel. So,
and where we thought the performance was much better and that we didn't get what we deserved because we weren't clinical enough or whatever.
Definitely. I mean, I think anybody that's sort of stepped foot into a football stadium sort of knows that it transmits a certain energy, and there's a few stadiums in particular in London that exhibit and emit huge levels of energy, sort of mammoth levels, and that's definitely one of them. So.
Yeah, so they seem to be, like, obviously not the Arsenal, but the United supporters were pretty disappointed with their goalkeeping situation.
Yeah.
You'd have to think that having not addressed this, them talking about potentially Donnarumma, which doesn't look like it's going to happen, and talking about, maybe our old boy, Emi Martinez, that they would try to do something to switch this out and to get Onana out of there, because it seems like the guys that they have in there are not really good options. There doesn't be anyone that seems to be a good option.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of admittedly I spoke to you about this a little bit earlier, off microphone, but I kind of switched off a little bit from footy this summer, which I have not done in like over a decade. So it was a very interesting.
That's refreshing. It's good.
It was an interesting experience, but with that comes a little bit of catching up. So this weekend I was like, Bayern Deer's in goal for them. Don't really know much about the situation. I know that Onana is not good, so they needed to do something. So he comes in, I believe, from Fenerbahce, and I'm like, okay, he looks the part.
Right.
And yesterday, or this weekend rather, I think it was just basically an error of his that led directly to our goal, and that was about all we really got to see from him because we weren't particularly threatening. But it's such a weird predicament to put yourself in. I mean, we know that having a strong goalkeeper and then a decent backup is sort of a necessity these days, and they don't really seem to have either of those two things.
Right.
It's a conundrum.
Certainly is. I mean, there are people calling for the third keeper to come in and play, right? I mean, that's wild, right? Tom Heaton or something?
Yeah, Heaton. Yeah, you're right.
Gosh. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, we got away with it last year. We got away with only having one decent keeper. You know, Neto played one more match than he ever should have, and that didn't go that well.
That's true. I mean, is forgive me for not knowing this. Is he still with us? He's still alive, but is he still playing with us?
No, he's not with us.
Because we brought Kepa in.
Yeah, we brought Kepa in,
yeah,
and Neto was alone.
Right.
Neto was alone, so he went back to Wolves.
Gotcha.
He's riding on their bench now instead of ours. Thankfully.
See ya.
Yeah.
We hardly knew ye.
Yeah, really. Wasn't involved in anything. They didn't put him in any media stuff. Like I don't think he ever spoke to Arsenal.com or anything. Did he?
I couldn't pick him out of a crowd, honestly.
Totally. So I do think that this match, even though it's not the greatest for the overall product that the Premier League put on show, but I think playing United now as opposed to, say, November, December is probably a good thing because there's so much surgery that's gone into their team as opposed to ours. You know, we have upgraded and made at least 2 changes to our starting 11 as of now. And Zubamendi has looked pretty good coming in. He was the man of the match in one of our last preseason matches, and has looked really tidy. You know, I don't think he had the best game of his career, you know, this week against United. And, you know, I think, you know, the fouls and yellow card, all that kind of stuff kind of plays in. But overall, he looks like he's settling in pretty well. I'm really excited for what he's going to do for our midfield.
Yeah, you know, he was, you know, with his other team for a very, very long time. This is a guy who throws himself behind whatever he's doing, and I think we've seen that from him so far. You know, admittedly, not the best performance this weekend, but I think he's a strong player. I'm excited to see what he brings to the team, and you're right. You know, I think this was a good time for us to play United. I think it started the season off, despite the weird performance, on a good note, because this is something that we can tick off, and all of these players are just going to continue to gel a little bit more. United is certainly, I think, going to gel a little bit more, sadly, and like you said, if we play them later in the season, we might not come away from that game with a win. So I'm glad that these players, you know, I think you've probably seen it, but Arteta said something along the lines of he went into the dressing room afterwards and they were pissed.
Right.
And they should be, and the fact that they acknowledge
they knew that they're much better than this team, and they didn't show it on the pitch. I mean, They showed the resiliency, they showed a good defense, and like the ability to put the game away. But they wanted to go there and beat the shit out of United.
100%. That's the attitude that, you know, any of us would want from our players, right?
100%.
And they're going to take that, put it into a box, consolidate it, and pick up the pieces and move on and just get better.
Yeah, that's what we can hope for. I think, you know, United seem to be feeling their way into the season. I think they're going to be – they're still looking to add a few players to midfield. You know, they're talking about Baleba, but it looks like that's not going to happen now with Brighton. I mean, that's a tough negotiators. I mean, they got $30 million out of us for Leandro Trossard. And you look at everyone else they have, it's like to buy anyone from them, you have to really bring the money. You know, the Caicedo deal, look at all that. I mean, they'd be spending like $100 million if they did that.
The market is a scary thing right now. I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday that's sort of learning a little bit about football and the money and how it's spent.
Right.
And, you know, the prices that we're paying for players of a high caliber, right, or even of a decent caliber these days, you know, you're spending an easy, you know, not to slight the guy, but we spent $50 million on Madueke, right? And that was unheard of money a few years ago. And my big concern, you know, especially if you're dealing with your Brightons who are tough negotiators, we're not selling players very well.
No, we never have.
And I'm worried about what we're doing currently because, you know, you see all of these guys that have no place in the squad at all. We're in a position where one of our good players, like decent players, is potentially not going to be in the squad. And I don't know that we have people necessarily knocking our doors down for these guys. And if they do, are we going to actually make decent money off of them? Isn't Oxlade-Chamberlain still our record?
Yeah, $40 million to Liverpool, yeah.
That feels like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 6, 7 years ago, right? I mean, that was like 2019, 2018,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's the familiar story because they know that, like, they look at the squad and they see these players and they realize that they're all on good wage packets. They don't really want to go anywhere, and no one wants to pay the price. They know that if you wait until the last second, that Fulham get Reece Nelson on loan again. You know, like this has happened over and over and over again. You know, maybe we accept a cut rate deal to sell Zinchenko for 5-10 million. You know, we wanted 15 or 20. He's a player worth that amount. He's still in his 20s.
Yeah.
You know,
you'd think that like we could get an easy. You know, he's the captain of his country.
Yeah.
This is something that we.
Yeah, he's played at Arsenal and Man City. He has a pedigree. He's a good player.
Yeah, no, but we'll get like shafted on like a $5 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We'll just take it.
Yeah,
too.
we're gonna take $7 million from Fenerbahce or Galatasaray or some shit.
Yeah, no, it's a weird one. And then I'm sure you've seen it, but the news came out today about Leandro Trossard.
Yeah, and improved terms on his deal, but no extension.
Yeah, he's going to be making more money. And I have mad respect for the guy. He has been an amazingly clutch player for us at times. But he also scored, 10 goals all comps last season? Yeah. And he's getting a pay rise. And I don't understand.
To be fair, he was making less than Reece Nelson, who scored how many goals?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm talking about, though. Like, I don't know. I guess I was going to ask your opinion on it. Like, what... That feels like a deal we don't normally see done very often.
Yeah. And
so it feels to me like something... Like, I'm just projecting here. Like, I don't have any information about this whatsoever. I'm not a journalist. But was there a gentleman's offer made and something happened and then he was, like, standing firm on it? Like, I just don't know how this manifested.
So here's what I think. I think that because the news came out a month or two ago that that Trossard changed his representation, right? So usually that means you're either getting a move or getting a new deal, right? That's usually it precipitates that. And you had a situation where, okay, in particular, and obviously still, if they were to happen to receive a $25-30 million per pound offer for Trossard, maybe they consider it. But at the current time, it hasn't happened, and we were really looking for another left winger, right? And now it seems we're priced out of the move for Rodrigo. You know, Eze doesn't make so much sense because we've signed the new deal for Nwaneri, and there aren't that many realistic left wing options that are better than what we have. You know, because when you think about it, all right, so Madueke signs as a 50 million pound winger. Like, what do you think? Aside from everyone's opinions on how Martinelli plays for us, like, what do you think his value is on the transfer market right now for being, 23, 24?
Martinelli?
Yeah.
In a pretty high amount.
More than 50 million.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah. So the people that were looking at were potentially Bayern Munich if they didn't get Luis Diaz. And then we would have been talking about maybe like 60, 65 million for him. So now we're talking about who can we bring in that's better than that, but also doesn't cost that much more than that. So even if...
Slim pickings.
Right. So you're talking about Rodrigo, and it's going to be what? At least 80 million pounds? Real Madrid probably want 100 million euros for him.
Easily, yeah.
And then we got to put him on what? 400K a week? Like, what the fuck is he expecting? Like, what is City going to pay him when he goes there? 350,000 a week?
Yeah.
Something like that. And so, like, that fucks up our wage structure. I think at this point, we're at this point and we've seen the immediate use of Madueke on the left side. That's a direct admission of the fact that it doesn't seem like we're going to sign anyone in that position because, okay, well, we're going to show that this new player we spent some really significant money on is more than just a squad player. Maybe it won't surprise me in a week or two, or even this next week if he gets to start over Martinelli at left wing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, we know Arteta likes highly versatile players, and, when we bought Nane, I thought, I think we all assumed that he was going to be Saka backup, which I think we're going to see, undoubtedly. What I didn't necessarily expect was he was potentially going to take Martinelli's spot very quickly. And I think that at this point, if Martinelli, as much as I love him, as threatening as I think he is, if there is not the end product that we want from him, I do think that time is going to come pretty fast.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely his make or break season. We've been here before. We've expected him to move on and push on from where he had done. A couple of years ago he looked so promising. We thought he'd be a 20-goal season player by now. And I mean, is that unfair expectations for a guy that we signed for $5 million, whose value went up, so dramatically? I don't know, like what's fair. But the thing is that this is a guy who is a Brazilian international who gets time for the national team behind said Rodrigo and Vini, but still does play and was coming on ahead of some other pretty big name wingers and forwards. I don't know. I'm not ready to give up on him. I would like him to still start at Leeds, but I understand if at a certain point soon that Noni gets the nod to start there. I mean, he should be playing on the right to spell Saka. I would like to see a couple times where he does sub in for Saka for the last 15, 20 minutes. I mean, maybe we want to have a lead, maybe one that's greater than a goal.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things I think, you ask, I think most Arsenal fans will agree with this. Saka has been run into the ground for the last several years. And I think that we've been crying out for someone to come in and give him just a little bit of a break. And last season in particular, some of these guys were absolutely gassed, right? And if we can give Saka a little bit of breathing room at the beginning or in the middle of the season and have somebody like Madueke come in and support him a little bit, 60th, 70th minute, throughout the season,
Yeah, it adds up.
It adds up, and what does that cash in the bank look like, match week 34, 35, how will Saka come in handy then? I'm curious.
I think so. What I do expect to see with this new news about Trossard, I kind of feel like there may have been a knock right recently. There's been some talk about that potentially, but also like it's not a coincidence. Like so, for example, Rodrigo didn't get used by Real Madrid today.
Yeah. So
the fact that until today, that was announced that Trossard has extended his contract, he hasn't been used in the past couple matches. You would think that there's a decent reason behind that, not just because he's fallen below in the pecking order, but also because you're protecting your investment in case you sell him. You don't want him to get hurt. That's a very common practice. So I kind of expect to see Trossard come in the mix more with this new news because it seems like this is the sign that there is no left winger coming.
Yeah, I agree.
And so if that's the case, then what I do feel that Arteta feels the pressure of having not signed a left winger, that he wants to prove that Madueke can play there and be versatile. So for that reason alone, I almost think there's a good chance he might start this upcoming weekend, come Saturday, and then maybe Trossard comes on for him instead of Martinelli.
I think how the Arsenal fan base can be. They'll be very quick to latch on to whatever feels special. They'll latch on to, right? And I think at this point, it could be frickin' Ronald McDonald out there on the left wing. If we get a goal, if we get another week come by and we get another goal, they're going to love whoever's putting that ball in the back of the net, right? And that's all we need. We just need to see some output from that side of the pitch because we had it a few seasons ago and players left and we lost it, and we haven't been able to recover
for one reason or another, whether it be the defensive alignment behind him, the fact that Xhaka's not there and they had an understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons, a lot of excuses, but I mean, I'm sure if you ask Martinelli himself, he thinks that his output should be better than it is.
100%.
And, I mean, I do think we saw some promising signs from him during preseason. He had a nice little layoff for Saka's goal in one of the preseason games. And, we saw a little bit of the good and the bad. The same kind of head down, the foot, the ball shuffling thing, and not enough of his head up and creative stuff. Not releasing the pass quickly enough for Ricky Calafiori, the other day. But I do think that if we see something like Madueke out there to start, it's specifically going to be like, oh, well, he's a versatile winger. He was always going to play the left side as well. This was always in the plans, right? Well, was he really? Really?
No, I think that the plan was to get a left winger.
Yeah.
And I think that, how the transfer season goes. For various reasons, what looks like it's a done deal at one point, it just immaterializes, right? And it's disappointing that in the case of someone like Eze, who I think we all really wanted to come to Arsenal, I think he probably really wanted to come to Arsenal, he's going to end up at Spurs, right? And that's a disappointing thing for us to have to cope with, especially in the face of potentially not having a real solution for the problem that we have over there.
So I think So a couple other things that actually, now I'm thinking about it, that I've thought about before, but when we've looked at it, if you were able to give Arteta a decision, like if he was able to look into the future a month ago and look at how the matches went preseason, and you see what Max Dowman has done on the right, why the fuck did I buy a right winger for $50 million if I have Max Dowman, who as a 15-year-old already looks ready to come in as a sub in the Premier League. I mean, that could be another reason why they're trying to repurpose Madueke on the left, because this option that shouldn't have really been available yet. And I mean, to be fair, I don't think he's going to overplay him this year, but who the fuck knows what happens?
Yeah.
But the skill is evident for everyone to see. This kid's a wonder kid.
He looks like quite a player. I mean, the level of intelligence that I admittedly have not watched a full game with him in it.
Right.
But the intelligence I've seen in some of his play through clips and compilations, right, for a 15-year-old to have should be illegal, right? When I was 15, I was not contributing at any level similar to that in anything I did.
I mean, the last 15-year-old that I've seen to have that kind of composure on the ball that I can remember is Fabregas at that age. The 15, 16-year-old Fabregas coming in, way back in 2004.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a era of football. Obviously when Fabregas did it, there weren't many others that you could point to at the same level. But now we're seeing a lot of young players coming into teams, really, really young, like way younger than I would have ever expected, making a serious impact. I mean, what's his name over at Barcelona? He just had his 18th birthday, didn't he?
Lamine Yamal. Right?
Yeah, Lamine Yamal.
What's his name? He had all the little people come in to...
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah.
And what year is it, man? Can you believe that?
I'm a little worried about him. Just anyone that idolizes Cristiano Ronaldo that much, I've got some issues with.
Yeah, I remember my brother called me and he said, "You won't believe what this guy did, and he's getting in a lot of trouble." And it's like, he described it as King Joffrey behavior.
Yes.
Terrible. But anyways, the whole point is young players in the game. I think
they do uniquely play in a position, because it's probably the only position of either the left or right wing where you can really put someone that's not as physically developed if they have the attacking tools, because it obviously doesn't work in defense. It won't work in the center of the midfield, and you can't really be a center forward in this mold. You have, like I said, Fabregas is a very unique position, so I guess maybe as a 10 and then as a winger, those are the only options for people that aren't as physically developed.
Yeah, I mean, he has a directness about him that I think that his maybe his size and his speed really lends itself to.
Sure.
And I could totally see you being right. Like, he is a viable option now off the bench for Saka. Why not, roll the dice with a player that, Arteta clearly believes in Madueke, right?
Yeah.
Whether we do or not is immaterial.
Sure.
He does. And if he thinks that he could be the difference maker on that left-hand side, we got to roll the dice.
So I guess the other point that I was trying to get to there was that, if Arteta could look at this preseason, right, and then look back at it, and the fact that Dauman is an option, with that in mind, would that $50 million have been better spent elsewhere, because maybe your backup is there already for the right wing? And I mean, obviously, I don't want to depend on being hey, we're depending on Max Dauman to be the guy to spell Saka. It wouldn't really be the right decision, but Reece Nelson's still at the club,
Yeah, I wonder how much genuinely of our pursuits of a Rodrigo or of an Eze really come down to available cash. I feel like we have it, right? I feel like we've seen us splash it before. I don't know that the Cronkies would necessarily bat an eye at being competitive in the market when we're being competitive in the league, unless there was something that was really sort of tripping everything up. And that's where I wonder if that extra 50 billion moves the needle, but I also wonder if that sort of doesn't matter either. Is there something else that's preventing us from getting these deals across the line?
Well, I think that if we had recouped more than $6 million, I think is what I saw. For
that too.
Our outlet, yeah. So if we had, let's just say hypothetically we had sold 2 or 3 of these players by now, right? So, and we're gonna give conservative estimates, right? So we say 10 to 15 million for Zinchenko, right? Let's go on the low end. So 10 million for Zinchenko.
5 million for Sambi.
5 million for Sambi. 10, 15 million for Reece. And let's just say we happen to get rid of Kivior for 25 million, right?
Sure.
So now we've made our 50. Let's say we've reached the threshold of having at least recouped 50 to 60 million, right? Because
Yeah.
that should be, with those players I just named, we should be recouping 60 to 80 million, really, based on their talent. If they were Liverpool players, they would get that much fucking money for them.
Well,
for some
Liverpool,
reason.
I think they made over 200 million on player sales.
That's why
this
they can still buy Isak.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
insane.
and it's not even just the effectiveness of them selling their players for decent money. It's that, like I didn't see them parting ways with Luis Diaz this season, right? And they did, and they made good money off of it. And like I feel like we've been sort of hesitant to do that at times when we really should have. I know the point's been brought up many, many times about Gabriel Jesus, but I wonder if there's like other players within our squad. We potentially a couple seasons ago with Martinelli. Like we don't really seize those opportunities when they seem to be possible.
Well, I don't think anyone wanted to sell Martinelli 2 years ago after his best season for us. I mean, yeah, at that point you probably could have got 80 million for him or something, for him being 22 and all those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, to your point, you talk about it like, well, when's the right time to get rid of somebody? Is it like when they're obviously not worth it anymore? I mean, like, right, like we're not going to get anything for Zinchenko now, right?
Yeah.
And people were talking about, I think Arsblog was talking about it on the Arscast the other day that like, yeah, like, should we get rid of Kivior? He looked really good at the end of last season. Well, that's the decision you have to make is when is the right time to part with the player? Like, he should want to be playing first-team football and starting for somebody.
Yeah.
He can get us – this is probably the highest his value is going to be, right? Because if he's with us another season, he's not going to play for shit. He's going to hardly play at all unless we have bad injuries. He's going to be a year older, 1 year less on his contract. The value is going to be less. We're instead of getting 25 to 30 million for him, we're going to get 15 to 20. And so that's a depreciating asset that should have been sold before. And, you have to make these decisions on some players when it still feels a little uncomfortable. Like, oh, that guy's still pretty good. I mean, that's why I think, I wanted to sell Trossard this season.
Yeah.
Even if it's only 20 million. Well, he's 30 years old. We bought him for 30. You get 20 back for a 30-year-old. That's great. That's a good way to recoup something there.
I agree. And we're putting ourselves in a position that I think we see other teams do from time to time, and we look at it from the outside and we say we can't do that, right? And that's have too many players on your books that you're paying weekly as their value depreciates. And we have more than a handful of players like that right now that, as of this moment when we're recording this Pintcast, I don't see many of them moving, which is an unfortunate reality.
And that's where that's what we were hoping to see a difference now with Berta coming in, right? So Andrea Berta's coming in as this maverick deal maker. I mean, listen, credit to him. 6 players in by the end of July, fucking amazing.
Huge, yeah.
Like that's a great job. He's doing it in terms of getting the deals done for the purchases. But he comes into a situation where everyone knows that Arsenal have people on too high wages, tough to get rid of them, and if you wait till the last fucking week of the thing, you can get a better deal. And so there's going to be, I mean, I expect to see a few. We're going to see a few that are not going to be, we're not going to like the news we get.
Yeah.
But part of it is going to be like, well, we have to get their wages off the books. So we have to cover, even if we have to cover 40,000 of their wages, we'll get the other 100,000, another 80,000 off. And so it's going to be like that you really got to hope that 3 of them can be permanent deals, right? So whether Zinchenko, Reece Nelson, who am I missing?
Sambi.
Sambi for sure. I mean, he's got to fucking release Sambi at some point.
Yeah, Fabio Vieira.
Fabio Vieira, right, yeah. We need Homie to do us a solid. Wasn't there interest in our old coach coming in for him or something like that? They were talking about that. There was talks about that a few weeks ago. What's his name? Carlos Cuesta, our coach that left to go manage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That he had interest.
Good for him. Huge move for his career.
Yeah, good for him. Great. And if he could do us a solid by buying one of these motherfuckers for a decent little
cut
fee.
you a deal. Yeah.
We'll knock $5 million off it. Just help us. Like, it looks really bad. We've sold $6 million.
Yeah.
And we bought 190 or whatever the fuck it is.
No, it doesn't look good. I mean, look, I don't admire the position Berto was in because, unfortunately, we did need all of the players we brought in. We brought in a lot of players, and we're still sitting here. We spent 10 minutes talking about one more that we'd like to bring in. So a difficult amount of additions, some high-caliber additions, too. I mean, I'm really excited about the talent that we brought into the squad. But, yeah, there's this sort of shadow looming over everything, which is these extra players who might might not even be on the bench come
No, they won't. They
yeah.
won't. We've looked at the numbers, and this it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
There are the squad is at least like 3 players too big, right? We really need to offload 4 or 5 players and then potentially add one more. But we need at minimum 3 of these players off the books.
So I mean, not that it moves the needle too much, because they're not really playing and featuring for us, but are there 3 that you would sort of look to immediately and say, like, they absolutely are the ones that would have to go?
Well, I mean the obvious ones. I mean the ones that are nowhere near the squad. Like Reese is not an option, and for whatever reason we decided to extend his deal because we thought we might be able to get a little more money for him, and he fills a homegrown spot and blah blah blah. But now he's on 100K and we can't move him. He's what, he's like 25 now or whatever.
He's the one that really confuses me the most because, like, oh man, that goal a few years ago seems like a different lifetime, but. He's a young guy.
But everyone knew, like, after that, like, that was his moment. It's time to, like, leave. Like, hey, you're a hero to us forever for that goal. That that would have been an amazing highlight in a championship-winning season if we had it. But
for sure, and he's good enough to be featuring for a squad every week. I don't know why.
Well, the problem is then he got that hamstring injury last year, and he was out for fucking 3 or 4 months.
That's right.
I mean, that's the main thing is that now it's like, well, not only that, he's an injury liability. He's on a lot of money. We're not gonna pay. We're gonna buy him outright. Like maybe loan with an option to buy. That's what I expect to see. That he goes back to Fulham, in not a compulsory but an optional £15 million deal to be done after the season, something like that.
Arsenal light.
Absolutely. Fabio Vieira has to go. Not involved in the squad.
Yeah.
Never gonna play for us again. We haven't seen him anywhere near a matchday squad. Sambi. What's he doing? He's playing with I've heard something saying he was like playing with the coaches or some shit.
Genuinely, I only like bringing him up on this because I feel like I haven't said his name in a long time. I need to remind myself he's still there.
And from what we've heard is that he did okay on loan, whether it was Sevilla or wherever else, but no one's willing to come pay money for him.
Yeah, those are the 3. I think.
But also that's the thing that when you get down to it, anyone that's thinking about that is like, well, why would I give him the money? Just wait 2 more weeks and then we'll get him for a better deal. They just know. They know.
Fire sale.
Because it's like there's nobody competing with them for these guys.
Yeah.
And so since there's no demand for them, fucking wait. What do you like? If you're missing, if this is the guy you're looking to be your starting guy, you probably don't have very high aspirations.
Yeah.
So
this is buying and selling 101. Everybody that's ever been to an estate sale knows if you pull up on the last hour on Sunday, you're gonna get some good stuff for good prices.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, you have a situation where all these guys have to go, and as it stands, I don't think Berta can make another deal until some of these guys are gone. So I wouldn't expect anything more to happen. I don't expect anyone else to come in, maybe a young player or something like that. That's not going to be enough to move the needle to get us excited about it because it's not going to be someone who can contribute this season.
Yeah, I don't see anybody else coming in. I certainly don't see any sort of like landmark signing coming in like we all had our mouths salivating 4 weeks ago, but it is what it is. I think we have a tremendous squad.
It's the strongest squad that we've had in 20 years.
Yeah, it is. It's remarkably strong. I think that unfortunately, this one sort of glaringly obvious problem with our large squad, but also that left wing, is sort of coloring a lot of our, and especially because we saw it this weekend, it didn't look too sharp. It's coloring a lot of our sort of opinion of the summer and of the squad right now, when the reality is this is a damn good team that's gotten us very, very far.
We're in a wonderful situation right now. I don't think we've ever had it. Even the Invincibles didn't have it to this level, where we have 4 quality fullbacks that could all be first choice for pretty much nearly any club in the Premier League. With the exception of maybe City or something like that. But basically, these guys, whether it be Miles Lewis-Skelly or Calafiori on the left, and whether it be Timber or Ben White on the right, these guys it's 1A, 1B. It's not first and second choice. You're not losing quality, and that's something for that position which we've seen. The hardship of playing that position and how durable you have to be and what you have to go through. I mean, each year we've had a fullback playing through injury to get to the end of the season because the other guy's already fucking hurt.
Yeah, no, we're in a very, very blessed position with them. I mean, the fact that just sort of out of the blue, last year I had my eyes on Nwaneri. And then all of a sudden Miles Lewis-Skelly out of nowhere from downtown arrives and looks, just as good as anybody you'll see in that position. and you hear him speak, and you're like, oh my god, he's a child, and he's just
Well, yeah, I think back to that friendly. I think when we played Bournemouth last year, and they played at the NVIDIA Health Dignity Sports Park, whatever the fuck it is where the Galaxy play.
Place we used to go to Warped Tour.
Yeah, right. And he featured against Bournemouth, and he played in midfield, right?
Yeah.
Not at fullback at that point. And we're like, okay, well, maybe he'll be around the squad. No one thought he'd be getting serious minutes. And Nwaneri was the big showcase guy because he's playing in the attacking midfield position in place of Odegaard. He's an 18-year-old that we brought on as a 15-year-old, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's impressive, and credit to him for being such a big character and being able to make the progress he's made. I kind of like the development now of Calafiori coming in and potentially being the starter. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of starts for all of our fullbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And I expect them to come across all competitions. I don't think there's any distinction where it's going to be like, hey, this guy is the League Cup guy.
No.
He's only the FA Cup guy.
Back in the day.
Yeah, right, exactly. Where it's like, hey, well, it's Kolasinac. He's only going to play in whatever cup, or the Europa League.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be plenty of starts for both of these for each option within the Champions League, in the Premier League, any competition.
Yeah, we're fortunate that these players in these fullback positions are not carbon copies of one another. They all have really unique skill sets that they bring to the table. Calafiori, obviously very strong physical presence, but he's got a lot of threat. He seems to score for us in big games, which is a huge asset.
Yeah.
And you've got somebody like Timber, who's like the most athletic dude you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
And it's just it's comforting knowing that we have those players right there next to Gabriel and Saliba. I mean, huge.
And to your point, now Arteta doesn't just have the first choice available. Since he has these, it's like, well, what is the game plan for today? What are we trying to exploit? And maybe if this guy's a little bit faster, maybe you don't play Calafiori and you play Miles Lewis-Skelly and you do whatever. Or, hey, if we're going to have license, we're going to have all the ball when you want the guy marauding forward, maybe that's the right game for Ricky to be playing there. So to have those options at your disposal without losing really any quality is something that we have never really experienced before.
No, I mean, I think right now you look at the squad and it's really, I think, a position by position sort of basis, aside from obviously the left wing, where we can say, all right, we've got a lot of security here now. We've got a ton of security here now in ways that in the past, you'd walk into a match and you'd say, if this happens, if that happens, what are we going to do? And I don't get that feeling much anymore because we have these really strong, and not even just strong, really dedicated players that buy into the boss's plan, that seem to really work well with one another. And I think most importantly, this was something Arsenal struggled with a lot, really fight for each other off the ball. That was something I think with our footballing identity, sort of during the dark times, we lost it a lot. People just walked right over us, right? And we didn't challenge when we lost the ball. And now it's like, oh, if you come running at us, we're going to run your ass down.
Totally. I think there was, I was just seeing some sort of quote, some Instagram reel or something. I think it was Chris Wilder, whoever the former manager of Sheffield United was when they came up in 2019, 2020. And he talked about how, it was a Monday night at Bramall Road and that they came in and that was the only time I can remember us ever losing to fucking Sheffield United. And so we lost at Sheffield United. This was like the end of the Emery days or whatever. And that squad was really, that squad pales in comparison to any of our good squads, right? And that he then compared it to, he's like, well, now you can't run over Premier League teams. He talked about the difference and that facing Arsenal last year, the season before, when Sheffield were up, that, they try to do this and they try to run into, have his center forward try to go in and run over Gabriel, and he just got knocked on his ass, and that there's a quick counterattack, and basically that now Arsenal are not. We're no easy team to come in and bully. Championship players can't bully these Premier League players now. We have a fucking squad of units.
Yeah, we do, and it's even from players and positions of the field where typically certainly in the last pre-Arteta 10 years, a lot of our sort of midfield players they had a very attacking mindset, and if they lost the ball, they lost the ball. They weren't going to do a whole lot to get us back on track. And now we have that. I mean, even with Odegaard, he is constantly fighting for the ball, and I think it's something about his game I really, really, really appreciate. We can have a conversation about his performances overall, but that's something that I want to see from a player in that position when they do something like that.
Yeah, I thought his work rate was great in the match over the weekend. The shooting still is lacking a little bit, but I like what he's doing. I like the proactiveness. I think we have to give him. There's all this stuff that we don't know about, and what we do know is that he had a serious ankle injury last year, and when he came back, he wasn't fully fit. He came back because the team needed him, and he was definitely playing through injury. We don't know to what degree, but we could tell that he wasn't completely right. No. So I'm hoping, we start seeing those better shots, because the thing was right. Because 2 years ago, he was bearing, a lot of those shots into the corner.
He was, and he's a player, we know he's capable of doing it. It sure looks like he's going to do it when he takes some of the shots he does, and then for whatever reason, he sort of whiffs it. But yeah, I think last year was a difficult one from him, to have arguably like your best player go from that to someone that was pretty anonymous in most games is going to hurt you. But he had a lot going on in his personal life. I think now, especially that we have like some really serious reinforcement behind him and going forward, he's going to have a good season, I think.
I certainly hope so. And I think there's no reason why he shouldn't let it not be for an injury or something. I mean, he got tackled pretty hard in that first match as well. And I was very concerned because I'm like, that's his left ankle. And so, I mean, I'm going to have that concern every time that a tackle comes in like that, and it's unfortunate. That's part of the game, you don't want to see anything happen to him, like what happened to Wilshere, guys like that who just get hacked to hell and just aren't able to physically, continue.
I was watching something earlier. I forget what it was, and this guy was talking about how he used to play for the academy at Palace, and he was there from the age of 8 to like 18. Had a horrible ankle injury, can't play anymore, and I think we sort of at times lose sight of how serious some of these tackles can be and injuries can be, and how a very, very sort of simple in-game action can really, sort of suck the life out of a player forever. And so for him to come back and have some pep in his step, there was that little nutmeg in like the first 10 minutes of the game. I forget who he was taking on, but it felt like the Odegaard that we really want to see. And that final action is sort of lacking. I think it's a similar case at times to Martinelli, where like he goes 90% of the way, and then that last 10%, there's some decision making, like they get in their own head, whatever. But I think Odegaard knows what he has to do this season. If we're gonna do well, we need Odegaard to do well.
Yeah, we can't be counting on someone else. And there is no Eze to take his spot, because if that were to be an option. So, I mean, I expect big things from him. I think he's going to have a great season, barring injury, fingers crossed, all that kind of stuff. I expect him to do well. And, he is the heartbeat of our team. He leads the press from the front. We did see when Kai came on that the difference as far as how he knows to press. And like you said, I think to that point, like I do think that he would have started. It probably would have been 60-30 the other way as far as the minutes for striker between him and Gyökeres. 60 minutes of playing with the guy that we're used to, that knows our system, that does that, because we can implement our high press and all that. So, yeah, I expect to see a lot of him, and I expect to see a lot. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Havertz other than just alternating at striker, because you got to think if there is some sort of injury or something else. I mean, honestly, there's a world where I could see Gyökeres playing alongside Havertz a bit, especially without the fact that we didn't sign a left winger. That, all right, well, maybe Madueke hasn't been that effective in the minutes we've given him on the left. Maybe Trossard hasn't done that much either, and we're sitting here in October, and nothing's been a really good solution for that. And maybe you have a point where, okay, we start with one of these guys on the left wing, and you start with Gyökeres up top, or or even Havertz or whatever. But the move you make might be to bring in the other striker and have him play. In this situation, it would probably be Gyökeres playing on the left, since he kind of likes to exist in that left channel, and having them play together up top, because you feel like Arteta loves Havertz so much, he wants to shoehorn him in one way or another. So he's coming into the game, whether it be at striker or he's going to be at left 8 or wherever. I mean, it doesn't make much sense now because we've brought Zubamendi to be the guy at the base of the midfield, and Declan's moved to that left 8, and he's not really a guy that we're going to pull out of the squad.
No.
That's not really he's kind of an undroppable.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I look, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some tactician, and I watch on a screen at a pub, but I would be lying if I didn't think about what you just said. Gyökeres and Kai together. I think last season Kai, he was on track to have a lot of goals and assists to his name.
He's going to have 20-plus goals competitions.
I think it would have been easy for him to get that, barring the injury. And he's such most of the time, he's such a presence, and his work rate is really high. And I wonder if having two sort of like mavericks like that at the top, or not even necessarily at the top, but feeding off of each other in that space, I wonder what it could do. And like you said, I do think Arteta just loves Kai Havertz. Like he wants him to feature as much as possible. And if he can impact the game, and we get something out of Gyökeres as well. I mean, look, it sort of goes back to what I said earlier. I think people just want to see more output, right? If it comes from the left, I don't know that people care if it comes from the left at this point. Honestly, there are players that are in our squad that are not putting up numbers that they should.
Right.
It's come into question again today with this extension for Leo. We spoke about it a little bit. People are saying, 10 goals last year, right? We're paying him more. People just want more. They don't want it to always have to come down to Kai and Saka.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and what we've seen when we've been successful recently, there has been a good amount of we've been sharing the ball a lot, right? So there hasn't been. In particular, injuries affected us. That's why Saka and Havertz didn't get to 20 goals last year. So that's kind of a unique situation. But, when we got so close to the year before, we were really sharing the goals quite well. How many we had, 4 or 5 players in double digits, right?
Yeah, frequently. Like
it
was.
And so that was a way that you could, that's the only way you can do it without having a 30-goal a season striker to come that close to winning something big. But everyone knows that having a 30-goal a season striker makes everything fucking easier.
Yeah.
So, I think what we've seen from Victor in preseason has been promising, but also demonstrates clearly that the situation as far as him, he and his teammates knowing each other is still a long ways to go for that understanding, for the timing, for the, the telepathic communication that we're trying to have between these guys. For a guy who plays on that back shoulder, it's kind of similar to what I used to see from Luis Suarez as far as playing on the shoulder of the last defender, those horizontal runs before he breaks vertically behind a defender, that kind of stuff. And so we're going to have to get to a better level as far as the understanding between these guys. But, I think it's promising. I think it's there.
He's had moments since he's arrived that have looked good, and he's had some moments that haven't looked good. But one thing is for certain, he's a very prolific goal scorer. I think the goals are going to come. I think this is
He's got to give him chances.
He's got to get his chances. This is a simple case of adjustment, I think. There's obviously the conversation to be had about, he was playing in a league that wasn't as physical. I think we saw a little bit of that on Sunday.
Yeah, him
and De Ligt were going at it. And he's going to deal with that a lot more this season. But there's nothing about him and his history as a goal scorer to suggest that he can't take that challenge on and meet those expectations. It's sort of in his court now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still, I want him to get his goals. I really hope he gets his first goal at Leeds. I want him to start that match at Leeds. I think it's a good. I think before you make real big surgery, something like that, in a match where we should have more possession at home against Leeds, it's a good place for him to to wet his beak to get his first chance. And even if it is, there was messages that came out today saying that potentially that he's been put to the number 1 spot as far as our penalty kick takers.
I saw that.
So if that's true, which I would assume, it makes sense.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to believe it.
Because Saka's a pretty good penalty kick taker, but he's not so good that you couldn't replace him with somebody. And we watched enough of those highlights that Gyökeres does take a good penalty.
He does, and he looks scary in that position. And yeah, I agree with you. I think I'd like to see him start versus Leeds. If I were the manager, I would want to say, this is your home now, and it's going to be your home for the foreseeable future. Show them what you can do.
Right.
Right? That place is going to be rocking.
Totally.
We're not the biggest Leeds fans. So it's going to be a good game, and give them a platform and give them the encouragement to do that. I mean, it was lukewarm start, but in front of a rockin' Emirates, I think he's going to go off.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I expect to see a lot from him, and I don't see why it can't be this weekend, and that's, we don't need to think about what it's going to be like if he doesn't score for a few more weeks. I mean, we can worry about that if we get there. We get there. And there's no, but sure, like, let's say he doesn't get, enough chances in the first half, but Saka wins a penalty in the 65th minute. And so give him the fucking ball, go up there, score your first goal, do your Bane celebration in front of the Emirates again, get it out there, get the slump buster out of the way.
I think it's rare. I think we expect players to come to teams and change countries and hit the ground running a little bit easier than they do, right? And these are human beings, right? They're going to take that time to adjust. And I think if we see from him that, hey, this weekend he's contributing a bit more, his movement is a little bit better, I think we're going to leave it feeling encouraged.
Sure.
I think it's unrealistic and frankly unfair to put expectations on a player. He scored in...
But life ain't fair, man.
Life ain't fair, and he has scored in an insane amount of goals. We cannot...
He has 100 goals in the past 2 years, right?
Yeah.
53 goals in all competitions last year.
I think it's something like 115 goals and 105 appearances or something like that. It's an inhuman amount of goal contributions. I don't think that that's going to happen at Arsenal, but I think he's going to score a lot of goals.
I mean, listen, 20 goals in all competitions, great.
Because bite your hand off.
Because think about, Kai's going to get a lot of minutes. Like no one's really backing, and no one's saying he can't do it. Gyökeres could maybe be the golden boot in the Premier League. It's possible, but you would think that the way you expect them to share the role a bit, and the fact that he's probably playing 2/3 to 3/4 of the minutes at center forward. He's not going to get as many minutes as Haaland does. He's not getting as many minutes as whatever other striker does, whether it be, if he's actually just running the bench at Newcastle, who fucking knows. But that in that situation, he's not going to be the one there all the time. And if we do get a contribution of 20 goals between, say 15 league goals and 7 goals in the Champions League and whatever else, you add that to the 15 to 20 you should get from Saka. You add that to the 10 you hope from Martinelli, from the 10 you hope from Trossard, from the 10 to 15 that, all right, like Havertz probably won't get 20 goals a season if he's seeding a bunch of these minutes, but he should still get 10 to 15.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's sort of the definition of a player that moves the needle for you, because we have been right there or thereabouts for these last several seasons, right? Without a Haaland, without a Salah. Salah having the greatest year of his life,
yeah,
right?
One of the greatest Premier League seasons in history.
For sure. We don't have that, and we're still right there.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of moments last season where we came away from a game saying, gosh, we just needed one of these guys to do something, man. Right? And it would have made the difference. And I think he can and will be that guy.
Amen. I feel that too. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I do. I have plenty of faith in the guy, and I think what we've seen from him as far as the drive and the determination, you think that he might be a mentality monster. It seems like. And even when Arteta talked about it, it's I just had one conversation with them, and it's yeah, no, I want this. I want the pressure. I want this. I like that, Take the ball. Give it to me. Let me take the pen. I love that in a player.
He literally put money where his mouth is, you can't really ask for much more, and, until the guy
making his agent give up fees and different things, make the move happen.
Yeah, I mean, until the guy is unplayable, unwatchable, I'm going to support him, because I've loved his attitude in this whole saga. I think he knows very well the amount of dependence we're placing on him as a fan base.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think he's somebody that really thrives in those situations and conditions based on what I've seen from him as a person. I'm not going to act like I know everything about
but I
him.
like it. He looks like a killer.
For sure.
And that's the thing. Some people don't have, you don't see the killer instinct in them, and this guy looks like a guy who wants to be the one that steps on their throats.
What more can you ask for, really?
That's it. I love it. Well, we always make predictions here on the Pintcast. We have Leeds up at the weekend. We will be watching. I'll be there this week at the Fox and Hounds, 9:30.
Let's go. Saturday
morning, Studio City. What say you? What's the score going to be, and who's going to be on the score sheet?
Oh gosh, I've been feeling lately 3-1. I think we will see a Gyökeres goal this weekend. I think we will also see a Saka goal this weekend. And then I do think we're going to see a goal from midfield. I don't know if that's coming from Declan or not. I thought this weekend was a strange performance from him. It might be his worst Arsenal performance, if I'm not mistaken.
I must have missed it when it happened, but all the talk after the match was that he got clocked in the face.
Yeah.
And so there's a good chance he might have been somewhat concussed. And if that's the case, then
I'll cut him all the slack in
yeah,
the world.
Yeah, of all people, he gets a pass, and if he got his bell rung and something might have been off, then so be it.
He's the type of guy that, like, I feel, again, sort of rockin' Emirates home crowd, first game of the season back at home. It reeks of a Declan Rice goal. So I hope that's the case.
I'd love that. I'm gonna go for. I do think we're gonna score 3 goals. I do. I think Gyökeres gets on the score sheet, whether that be penalty or from open play. I think he's getting on the score sheet. I like the idea of the Declan one, but I'm gonna go for the Capitan, Odegaard. Getting at the end of maybe a movie starts. Gets the ball back to him at the top of the box. Bang. That one timer into the corner. I can see it. I'm trying to manifest this.
I would love that more than anything in the world.
And just to make everything better, Martinelli will score as well. Look at that. What a dream scenario.
And then we will not have to sign any left winger.
Everything will be fixed.
Everything will be fixed. Yeah.
No one will be complaining.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Martinelli. I think it's interesting. I was talking with my brother about this the other day, because obviously, like, Arsenal's had, like, a huge influx of fans over these last several years since we've been, like, really competitive again. I wonder, like, I don't think that everybody knows that we got him from, like, the Brazilian fourth division, whatever it is. Like, he was a child when he came to us. I think I might have even told you this story the last time I was here, but we met him years ago, and he was signing his full name.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and now he's like a mega celebrity.
Yeah, it's wild.
Time flies.
Yeah, he was just a wide-eyed kid back then.
Yeah.
But it's wild, And look, I love his rise. I want him to continue to go. I am an advocate of giving him one more season for him to prove.
I agree.
But this is it's put up or shut up time, right? And so whether or not he gets the goal, I just expect a goal contribution. I think we might see what we saw in that preseason game. We might get a Martinelli to Saka or a Saka to Martinelli. That's what I'm seeing for that third elusive goal. One way or another. We get a goal contribution from Saka. We get a goal contribution from Martinelli. This is provided he starts. He starts. If it's Madueke, then Madueke gets the assist. I see the Madueke to Gyökeres. I see the in particular because the different thing that we have with him is he'll be the left foot driving down the left side to that end line with the cutback with his better left foot. So I can see that cutback to the 6-yard box. Our predatory new striker, first time it in.
He seems to love goals like that.
Yeah,
Gyökeres, from what I've seen from
right, and it's not that he's a 6-yard merchant, but if you look at the history of his goals, he scores so many goals there. Like, he is a poacher in that sense, and he can shoot from distance. He's got a hell of a boot that he can put through the ball. But I want to see. It's been a long time since we had a penalty box striker.
For sure.
I mean, I guess to be fair, Aubameyang was that.
He was
in stretches for us.
He was in stretches for us. Yeah, I think the one thing that I see in Gyökeres that I'm really excited about, that I think Aubameyang possessed, but I don't know that he has it as much, is Gyökeres fucking throws himself at things, man. In a similar way to Haaland. I'm not saying he is Haaland. I'm saying they physically move very similarly sometimes. But if you watch back, those 100 goals that he scored. He is really, he will put himself on the ground if it means that the ball is going in the back of the net. And that is something that we've been crying out for.
It's something that, like, when you look back at, and even though I don't like the man, I have to give him his flowers in this sense. Like Cristiano, when he was at Manchester United, and when he took the step to turning into one of the best players in the world, he stopped trying to go down in the box.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I want to score 50, 60 goals a season, right? So, like, the last year that he was there at United, he showed up, but especially once he was at Real Madrid, he didn't want to go down for the penalty. He wanted to score the fucking goal. Mm-hmm. And so you saw that with him. You saw with Messi. They're trying to score 60, 70 goals each season. It's that the players, when they're like that, and Henry getting tackled, right? Him putting that last touch as he's getting tackled and toppling over, right? Doing the somersault, but as he's falling, he's putting that goal.
He does it, yeah.
Because anything to score the goal.
Yeah.
So that mentality's huge, and I love seeing that. And if that's what he brings to us, then I'm super excited for what we're going to see.
Amen.
So
You won't have to wait long. Sorry to interrupt you because he's scoring this weekend.
exactly. Well, we're going to see it this weekend. I'm looking forward to that. And I am expecting big things, but we got to temper some expectations. But if we can keep the train rolling, keep the wins coming, like right now, results mean more than anything else. Get through. If we can get through the growing pains while still getting the points and not suffering in any. It's like it wasn't as pretty as I liked. We only won 2-1. Our goal difference isn't as big as Man City. Like, okay, whatever. Like, there's worse fucking things. If we have maximum points, we can cry about that shit later. Aesthetics are one thing, but what's it all about? Putting the ball in the back of the net, not having 12 draws or whatever we had last season in the league, finishing games off.
That's the thing. I mean, we just need to come away from games, again, the mark of the champion, stuff like that. You hear it all the time, right? 12 draws, right? A lot of those games we should have won. A lot of them we shouldn't have won, right?
A lot of those we were winning and gave up leads, which is uncommon for our really stingy defense.
We need to face problems like that in the state of the game, and we need to come away from it with a win. By hook or by crook, you hear all the time. And that's what we did, right? And I think that, again, I said this at the beginning of the pod, and I want to reiterate it for anybody that's listening to this. Sunday was big. It was a big one, right?
Yeah.
And it's important that we, I think, walk away from that day with our heads held high despite the performance, because, down the line, this is something we will, I guarantee you, look back on and say, that was a fucking hell of a good win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot to look forward to. The season is pretty much all in front of us. I'm really not that worried. If we had slipped on the banana skin there the first match, I would have really hated the narrative. It wouldn't have been fun listening to any of the media stuff.
Oh no.
And right now there's still people trying to poke holes in what we're doing and whatever. But there's the other ones that don't even normally really ride for us, being like, well, say what you want, but that was a mature performance by a good team getting the victory, and sometimes you just got to grind it out. And so if grind's what we got to do, grind's what we got to do. Just, it's all about the points. We're here to win. We need to get to 90 points. We might need to get to 100 fucking points. I don't know. I mean, I hope not, because it's really insane to have to do that to win the fucking league.
It is, and I think it's honestly it's just a credit to the work that Arteta's done. I mean, I think, like, looking back on my experience as a fan and some of the days that I've had at the pub, 10 years ago, let's say, they were dreadful, right? And not only were they dreadful, but they were dreadful with not many friends around, right? You remember this, right?
A little quieter, yeah.
And if you had told me, like, when we had sacked Emery that we would be here, I don't know what I'd tell you, right? And I think that's why for other fan bases, there's a lot of shit talking in football. Coming in second as frequently as we have these last few years, they're going to poke fun at it, right?
Sure.
But the reality is, especially given the circumstances last year with all of our injuries, the position that we're in is fucking wild. Yeah. It is wild, and it's one that I feel very grateful to be in and be a part of. The fan base has grown exponentially.
Yeah.
The players are respected throughout the world. They're not treated like clowns. And that's something that I craved so desperately, and now I get to experience it every week with you guys. And that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I think the recognition internationally, like, we made the Champions League semifinals last season, and no one had any doubts that we deserved to be there. That we looked on paper like potentially one of the best teams out there. And, after putting our foot down, dropping Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Doing that really got us some big respect, because people didn't think we were going to do it. Well, you run into Real Madrid, that's the buzzsaw. They're the boogeyman for everybody when it comes to Champions League. And then to go out and beat them so comprehensively, I think that was the biggest statement we've made, and, I was disappointed with the Champions League, bowing out to PSG, but they've turned out to be a really exceptional team, except for when they want to play in the Club World Cup and these other, whatever. But much to my chagrin in my pockets with my money, but whatever.
Yeah, I hate them so much.
So yeah, with all that said though, that, people, put some respect on our name. We're now an elite club that if not top 4, top 6, there's no doubt that we're in the top 10 clubs in the world. And as far as the strength of our squad, when you look at it, position by position, how could you not have us in the top 4 or 5 or 6 teams? It's really you'd be hard pressed if you told me based on the value of the squad, the quality of players that we had.
That's the thing, man. I look back on teams that we played in the past, all great people. All great people. But I remember years ago watching like one of those fan channels, and they were doing like a best 11, right? And it was for the North London Derby. There were genuinely more Spurs players in that best 11, and it was like
you couldn't really argue with it too much.
That's where I was going with this. I couldn't really argue with it much. And I think you look across the Premier League, you look across Germany, you look across France, you look across all of the big leagues, Spain obviously. Arsenal have got a really amazing squad, and I'm just excited that we're now in a position where it feels like every single player on that squad will die for Arteta. They'll die for each other. And, again, I say this a lot because I feel like we've been wanting this moment for so many years. But, like, what more can you ask for from your team and your players?
Yeah, you just want to have a chance. You want to have a shot to win it. And everyone knows that, like, cup competitions, anything can happen. We really want to win the league. And, it's been way too fucking long. It's way too fucking long.
It has.
But no one wants to face us. There's no one that's going to go into any cup draw that's going to, what's worse than drawing Arsenal? Liverpool, I guess?
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like Champions League, same thing. Real Madrid, Barcelona, and then who else? Bayern Munich. I think people would rather face Bayern Munich than us.
I agree.
At current moment, which is I can't have said that really anytime before last year.
No. I used to get clowned on when I was teaching middle school. It was the Bayern losses, and these kids would rush out of the classroom to laugh at me. These are like 10-year-old kids, 11-year-old kids, fuck them kids, yeah. And no, they're all good kids, but
great.
yeah, I mean we've just come a long way.
Well, it's good to be here. It's good to be ready with the new season, with all the hopes and dreams that we all have in the beginning. None of the doubt and fraught and all that kind of stuff. So I'm happy.
You know how you can tell everybody's really excited that it's a new season? We threw a school supply fundraiser at the pub this weekend. We try to do a lot of just charitable stuff throughout the year, and we got so many school supplies, and it's always interesting doing something like that at the beginning of the season versus match week 37 or 38 when you've lost it all. Yeah, and it's you'll get 2 packs of crayons. Right. We got a boatload of stuff, which was awesome.
Well, that's that. You know when to do it. That's smart. You got to do it. Let's say the way Arsenal roll out kit releases and retro gear and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
You can, play on their emotions.
That means I need to do 300 charitable events a season.
Just got to do them early. Got to do them all. Everything's still in play.
Yeah.
Don't book too much for February, March, April.
Yeah.
If it does, we all know how it goes after you get knocked out of the Champions League. That next week is.
Ooh, it's the atmosphere. It's funny because it's not funny. It was horrible, but Real Madrid just I can't recall the pub ever just being like that. It was truly wild. People were crying, and
yeah, I was there for the first leg. That one was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even be inside because it was so full that I was stuck outside. But it was the lid was coming off the place.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was truly special. And then the following weeks, it was similar amounts of people. The place was absolutely packed, but everybody was just in a fucking miserable mood. That's football.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that what comes along with higher expectations, it's it's great that we're better, but now people, the standard's been raised and nothing less than caviar, champagne football or broke.
Yeah, here's the thing, I want to, if we're going to be sad about huge losses, I want to be sad about them on that level, right? I don't want to wallow in misery because we can't string 5 passes together. I want us to wallow in misery because the thing that we want, the shiny thing that we all covet so much, just slipped out of our hands.
No, I'm tired of that shit. We've done enough of that.
No,
yeah,
I know.
I know
we got to win it,
yes,
but like
the standards are different.
they're huge, yeah.
And that's but that's it. Like you want to play with the big boys, you want to bang with Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, then this is what this is what comes with the territory.
Yeah.
The expectation is going to be higher. And like we said, I mean that's what we saw. This would an Emery coached Arsenal team be complaining after winning at Old Trafford 1-0? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. So, perspective, it helps so much. You take that into consideration and you look at where we were and where we are now, and it's such a better situation that there's no comparison. So I don't know. For me, people that still find ways to moan about shit seem to just be unhappy in other parts of their life or something. I don't know. I'm not going to psychoanalyze everything else, but you have to smell the flowers. Like when things are good, you have to stop and smell these things and like understand that what you have. I mean, imagine, like Newcastle won their first fucking trophy in however fucking long, right? Mm-hmm. And they thought we have Champions League, we have all this shit. Now they're fucking star strikers on strike. They can't sign any players.
Yeah.
They might go another fucking 40 years before winning. Well, probably not with the amount of money. But you know what I mean? That like, that might be the only fucking trophy that the people that have been supporting them ever see. And we are the Arsenal. Even if we don't win the league, we'll fucking win an FA Cup at least in the next couple of years.
I agree. And I think from just wearing my like branch manager hat, from a supporter's lens, I think that this has been like, discourse aside, right? This has been the healthiest time to be a supporter. It's sort of in the history of the Premier League. Just our access to it is incredible. But beyond that, here in LA, there's more groups now. They seem to be popping up more and more all over the country. And anywhere you go in the City of Angels, you've got a spot to watch. I mean, you mentioned a buddy in the Inland Empire. They've got a group out there.
Sure.
You've got the East Side Gooners. You've got us. There's just so many people that share the love for this team that you do. And, I remember when I started going to the pub years ago, I went to make friends because I had gotten out of college. I didn't know where to go. And, I made friends there, but there weren't 300 people packing a pub out on a game day.
Yeah.
And that's something really cool, man. We've got to cling to those moments.
Yeah, it's a unique experience and a unique thing that we can have and a bond that, I think what we have here as far as the way our fans can usually coexist with supporters of other teams as well. But the bond that we've built between everybody, it's a really like, You're right. There's levels to it because I have memories of 2010 watching Arsenal beat Barcelona at the pub and cheering with these guys, and some of those guys, those are memories we're never going to forget. And that's But similarly, those memories of like beating Real Madrid, it's the same level from last season. But those are things that are actually going to be core memories when you look back at it. With these people that you make friends with, that you come out and see these things with everyone. Every few weeks, or even if you only see them once a month or a couple times a season, it's still something so special that it really does enhance the experience.
It does. You create friendships and bonds, and you sort of pick up where you leave off. And like, I've known you for years now, right? And since we've known each other, there have been a lot of people that will come to the pub and they'll come for large stretches at a time, and then you'll never see them again. In some cases. And if I saw them tomorrow, we'd pick up right where we left off, and that's a beautiful thing that I'm very thankful to the Arsenal for sort of cultivating.
Yeah. No, definitely. There's some of those events like what we had last summer when Arsenal were here again. I ran into people that, I used to watch matches with at Lucky Baldwin's back in 2008 when I first moved back to LA from college, when I moved back from Santa Barbara. And stuff like that, but you see them out there and it's like, hey, we've known each other for 15, 20 years, whatever it is. And we still share this bond, so it's really something special. So, get out and support. If you don't have anyone near you, figure out where it is. Whether it's an online community, whether it's in blogs or whatever, it's a beautiful thing to come here, and share it. And and the amount of friends even that from all over, from back in the days when Twitter was still a good thing. When those matches happened, we would all come. People come from all over the globe, not all over the country, all over the globe, from Canada. And honestly, a lot of those people are still some of my closest friends. My Twitter homies from back in 2009, 2010, the core group that we had. I mean, my regular co-host for this is a friend of mine from Twitter. That's exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
That's born out of just sort of a love for Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely to know that you can like sort of go anywhere in the country and have that connection with someone. And you know, for people listening, I'd urge you, like, if you know, you're sort of trying to find that spot, just go to arsenalamerica.com. You don't even have to Google it. You just go to arsenalamerica.com. All the supporters clubs are listed there for you. And there's somebody waiting to have this conversation with you in the flesh over a pint.
Yep. I mean, every big city, you know, and like I routinely, you know, I get out to at least, I don't know, 3 to 5 matches with other branches. I mean, even in LA, I go with all different branches because they're all over fucking town, depending on where I am that day or what's going on. So whether it's the West Side Gooners or the East Side, whether it's the, you know, Fox and Hounds, whether it's the Cat and Fiddle, whether it's the San Diego Gooners down at Bluefoot, whether it's up at Maggie McGarry's in San Francisco, whether it's out in Vegas, wherever the fuck we are, or actually, like I saw Arizona Gooners doing new stuff and whatever, like they get down, they really go for it out there.
A lot of people.
Yeah, it's impressive. So, you know, it's a wonderful bond, and it's you know, it's part of why we love this shit, and then to have someone to share it with, it's a beautiful thing.
Amen.
Well, get out there, go to your branches, find some people, find some friends, share that. If you're here in LA, come join us at the pub, at the Fox and Hounds, Arsenal Los Angeles. You can follow Taylor and the group at Arsenal Los Angeles on Instagram. Do that. Get out, watch the Arsenal, look for a big victory this weekend against Leeds. Arsenal winning the title this year. I didn't even ask you your predictions, but I already know what it is. We're winning the shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's it. All right.
I just say that every season.
Well, always. But this year I mean it.
You know, I do mean it, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Taylor. It's been a pleasure.
Much love, man.
All right.